School lunches, well, they can just walk away. The full picture here using how you at this age could and just may have viewed your school experience, lit up more so by your imagination. On the surface, Ned's Declassified is a quirky little show that had a nice little run. On a deeper level, it's a quirky show that emphasized the experience of navigating school and everything that comes with that, and doing so with some flair. I can't express how much of a cartoon this show feels like without it being one. So let's dig into it all today on Fringe's Declassified Content Survival Guide. Results may vary. At a core level, Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide is a show about the ups and downs of dealing with middle school through the eyes of the students going to school. It does so in a way to starting to kick back in, and he just starts spitting some facts right in your direction, you believe him from the confidence alone. While the advice from the jump can be legitimately great with nothing to really change, what makes it special is that the events of the episode can offer you a different perspective or alternate way to understand and interpret the tips, giving more nuance than what it seems. Ned, played by Devin Werkheiser, is the everyday someone with he's not this overachiever. School grounds around it, it really sets the tone that we aren't worried about home life. We don't deep dive into the parents. We don't look into the struggles of getting up early. And we don't see the friendships or other school relationships blossom anywhere else aside from James K. Polk Middle School, which is named after the 11th President of the United States. But what started Ned on his journey to be a curator of the guide? Why is this seemingly average student the one to offer up advice through how he sees school for others to hopefully read and take away valuable lessons from?
Our buyers hustle every day to get you great deals on all the good stuff. Like this. Only on Name.
Aside from the tips being a mixed bag of definitive truths that I feel anyone can universally agree on, and some that are just very up to the end user if it applies to them and can help them in any way, Ned always has his eye out for his personal struggles and his friends' struggles to truly drudge out these moments of looking at you from the screen with that, hey, we've all been here before, right? Look, as one time he walked into the wrong restroom in kindergarten, and from that embarrassment he vowed to help make sure others don't have to feel scared or embarrassed about everything that happens and could happen throughout their time in school. So from then on, the guide was born, and now we see how it really plays out in the middle of your school journey, that being here in middle school. But in a show about surviving school, the tips would be pretty important, right? So let's take a look at some of them. Each episode is full of multiple tips as to not just heavily focus on one, as each main situation can call for multiple different tips in general. Some tips will also act like smaller add-on bonus tips that represent a point being made, and now we go through other examples or extensions of that point. For the start of the show, we really get a baseline walkthrough of things to do for the guide, but none of them truly being a full standalone labeled tip. Most of it is general first day of school things like don't be nervous and be yourself, as well as some personal tips about the statement that your clothes make on day one, which is pretty relatable, but a big tip being getting a haircut 2 weeks early for the sake of giving your new do some time to grow into itself. Now, clearly some things here are base level, like of course being on your best behavior, but I do like that there is a mention of the statement that you make based on your outfit. It helps set a tone for you as a person, your interests, just your whole vibe in general. Now, for real though, the way you dress has no bearing on who you actually are, especially to an extent that should truly matter. But as a kid, I personally remember how much your outfit, especially on the first days of every school year, made an actual difference. I look back at it now as something so silly, and as an adult, I've always strived to dress decently for events or going out. But most days, I dress in a hoodie and sweats because it's comfortable. So as superficial as this tip may sound in hindsight, I feel like it genuinely had an effect on how your peers viewed you back then, which sucks, but it really is what it was. There's a bunch of first day stuff in this episode that offers you a real look into being prepared and keeping your stuff together. Further episodes in season 1 deal with getting to your locker and to the next class in time, what are the ideal times to hit the restroom, picking the best project partner, and how not to be stuck doing all the work or you not doing that to someone else. If we look into some of the tips about the teachers, one of them being don't kiss up, do the work, it really sets a level that the show knows when to give some real solid advice that isn't just for fun, playful, or bare minimum baseline common knowledge. The full statement being, I know it doesn't feel like it, but teachers are people too. And if you just do the work, or at least try in class, you'll be amazed how much your grades shoot up, which I personally think is a fairly great tip. If you're athletic and want to get into school sports, they focus on what it takes to make the cut and how to navigate not making the team. So we have general life tips, we have school-based tips, and of course there are relationship tips too. At a time in your life when you're more likely to start being interested in others, developing full-on crushes, and even dating, the show gives you perspectives from crushes that like someone but the other person doesn't like them back, or having a crush on someone else, what it feels like to like someone that is considered out of your league, and even the unknown where you're not sure if the person you like has any feelings towards you. I appreciate that the show has a fair balance of not playing too heavily into the relationship stuff in a way that feels forced or overbearing, but rather kept it natural, often weaving it in and out of other storylines or brief mentions for continuity, making it feel true to life, with that being a major focus some kids would have, again, especially at that time, but it just weaves it in and out rather than it being your everything. The show would also tackle rumors in a way of how it feels like to be on the receiving end of one, and the guilt that can come for being a part of its spreading, which I think is valuable to a viewer who at the time is or has experienced this no matter what side of it they're on, to help get through it, because at the end of the day, you know who you are, or or for some introspection and self-realization of the type of person you want to be in life. While some of this may seem surface level on the show, or shown in a way that is way more lighthearted and serious, it still is able to reach you on a different level that lets you put the puzzle pieces together, rather than show the severity. We have tips focusing on things like backpacks, that add some good advice like just keeping it clean and not too overstuffed, but also some more goofier things as backpacks in school were surely not treated as this massive statement that the show likes to make it. And unless you had one of those rolling ones that dragged around you in school, acting as if you're at an airport, trust me, you were definitely being judged. Not by me, of course, I would never. That bullies were another reoccurring topic, but mainly for comedic relief or plot progression. But there are specific moments of tips and notes with how to deal with these situations, offering different ways in handling it all. So while I feel some of these are pretty solid, these are not the end-all be-all for your personal problems. I feel like everyone's situation with this subject was different growing up, so tips like if you know their schedule, every student will have the means to report espionage on their bullies, ask their schedule, because some are just clear in class, some may just receive less, and some are just going to so again, the show is not the end-all, be-all, definitive way to live your life by closer to where you were. So while I look back on all these tips, I do see a lot of genuine ways that the show was able to shows that carry some creative similarities, but all have massive impacts in the spaces and eras they came out in, each of them truly feeling like a different show from the last. But I think the most important thing that was able to be done with a show like this is that it feels completely unique. Nothing else in this genre of school-related drama, sitcom, or anything else you want to classify had a vibe that could match Ned's Declassified. In a field for kids television, shows that focused on kids' lives where a large portion of the different stories told are within the walls of the school, Ned's chose to be different in the best ways possible. We don't need to focus on their home, as the school acts as the place where we spend most of our time anyway, so we just rarely leave the direct premises. The plot's ups and downs don't exactly follow a more drawn-out, traditional up-and-down formula for its rising or falling action or climax. Playing more into the cartoony nature of things, the show has 2 segments per episode, so roughly every conflict, situation, and tips given are done so in about 11 minutes each, making it a fast-paced experience, much like the opposite of school in real life. Scott is a cartoon curator at heart.
Hey, Johnny. Scott, right now it's time to test your bathroom skills and accuracy. Starting toilet paper? 150 points.
I gotta say, Johnny, this is like one of the best times I've ever had in the bathroom.
We'll be right back with more Scott Bellows.
Before we even get to him working on Johnny Test, he's been a head writer on The Fairly Odd Parents, which is A, why they appear in a special episode on the show, and B, why his live-action efforts have the energy of a cartoon, knowing how to translate the formula into a live-action space. You can relate to the school and the people in it, but also have this complete separation and acceptance of the wackiness that takes place. The show wasn't looking to reinvent the school sitcom, but it did find a way to do something fresh within the crowded space. It stood out well enough from the other shows around it, and I feel that is such a testament to why I, and so many others, hold it in such high regards, and look back on it with such fondness. I can't reiterate enough how crucial the characters in this show are to making all of this work as well as it did, with each character feeling like they were perfectly casted. Funny enough, though, the character of Cookie was originally going to be named Boogie, as well as played by a different actor, Stephen Marcari, aka Jerry from Drew and Jerry, the Drake and Josh side characters that had their own little fake TV show as a joke in a great episode of Drake and Josh. And once again, I have a big Drake and Josh video in the works, and I'm very excited to talk about it, so stick around for that. But this version here with Boogie was only in the original pilot, where when they came back and reshot the pilot, the other actor went on to play a different role in the show, going from one of the main leads to the side character of Albert Bormenheimer, as Daniel was given the role of one of the leads, and the character was changed up a bit and turned into Cookie. Another casting fun fact is that before Lisa Zemo was played by Rachel Sibner, none other than the singer and actress JoJo had the role and played it in the pilot, which is just another role that JoJo was up for and moved on from. Around the same time, when Hannah Montana was in the works, she apparently had that role offered to her as well, and I just find all of that interesting. And of course, in the development of any show, things change, and something that would have been completely different would have been Coconut Head. Aside from him basically only being called that throughout the show, this was a wig he was wearing the entire time. But can you imagine if this bowl haircut wasn't there, and he didn't have a universally agreed upon nickname? Well, originally his hair was going to be spiky and on the short side, but that was later changed into the iconic look he had throughout the show. Heck, there was almost a storyline that focused on him getting a haircut to fit in or feel cooler, and I'm guessing this was in the efforts of what the third season was doing with a few characters, representing them going through their own growth from the start of the series to the end, which I think was handled real well. Which brings us to the end of the series. Where does a show that focused on a group of kids in middle school go from here? Well, just like middle school, 3 seasons equaled 3 years. So the main show itself was going to come to an end. And while there is more to what could happen after, we'll get to that in just a bit. The ending of the show was slated as a double episode length event, and called Survival Guide of Field Tips, Permission Slips, Signs, and Weasels. Yeah, there's a lot going on here. But there is mainly one aspect I want to focus on here at the end of the show. Aside from the fact that this special takes place majority of the time outside of the school, and instead at the Huffington Gardens and Gallery, this would help send off our trio into the unknown of what's next for them in high school after the summer. But we reach a point with the characters of Ned and Rose that really cemented their friendship, and all the awkward tension that gets in between them whenever things get into a more flirtatious territory, as Ned struggles with his ultimate crush of Susie, and realizing that all this time he may have truly been in love with his best friend, Rose, bringing back in a hard final stamp for the relationship arcs in the show, while still delivering on a finale that focuses on all of the right characters it needed to. Plus, the school is basically a destroyed mess by the end of it, and what's more satisfying than that? Now, I believe middle school isn't really a thing all around the world, but in general, for those who did have a full-stage school separation with elementary, middle, and high, middle school was a very interesting bridge between the extremes of elementary and high school. It felt both necessary and unnecessary at the same time, as the 6th grader you enter as is not the 8th grader you leave it. Those 3 years, usually consisting of the preteen era in your life, are crucial in starting to develop who you truly will become, and help start to put things in perspective a lot more for yourself. So overall, Ned's Declassified worked for someone like me at the time when it came out. But how was it received then without nostalgia goggles on nowadays? This show was received pretty well all around, heralded by some as one of the best shows on television for its demographic at the time. The show ended in style with a solid conclusion and a marathon of episodes that were picked by the cast as their favorite moments from the series. 3 years delivered 3 solid seasons that filled us with a lot of laughs and a lot of heart that made it something truly special. What I can see even more so as an adult when looking back was not lost on those who reviewed it then, understanding that this show was different from the rest. It was unique. It wasn't afraid to be different, and it always had something to say, even if that something was a little silly sometimes. It's all